giving up my dreams of having a music career, and maybe you should too, maybe. I don't know. I'm just gonna talk a little bit. Sorry if I ramble, you know, I'm not too comfortable making videos and talking, you know, and shit. So I'm just gonna talk a little bit about just some recent shit that I've come to accept and realize, you know, as I get older. You know, I'm gonna be 25 in a couple months, and you know, my life has changed a lot, and I'm getting older, and I finally kind of feel like I'm learning more about being an adult and being mature and accepting a lot of shit that I didn't want to accept when I was 18, 19, 20. And it's going to be a lot of personal life stuff, but a lot of it's how it relates into my music career that I've had thus far. And, you know, so if it gets into the personal aspect, you know, it's still relevant to, you know, music, and it could also be relevant to you if you know, are in a similar situation. So the title is a little bit clickbait because I do, you know, I'm not telling you to give up, but, you know, if you relate to my experience, then maybe you should kind of take a look, you know, into yourself. And by the way, if it looks like my lip is swollen, it's just a nicotine lozenge. I'm quitting vaping again. So I guess I should just start from the beginning. You know, I started with music when I was 10 years old, playing drums, and that's what hooked me, like, immediately. You know, I was able, like, I went over to my aunt's husband at the time, went over to their house, and just hopped on the drum set, and I was playing full songs, like, from start to end. And that's just, you know, I was already into music by then. I grew up, you know, on a lot of punk music and hip-hop music, and, like, I was already into music, but, like, getting on the drums for the first time, that's what really kicked it into gear. And, like, you know, I realized, like, shit, this is, like, all I want to do forever, you know. And then also, sorry, I had to move my chair all the way up, so my head's kind of like hitting the fucking ceiling. So yeah, that's what started it, you know, playing drums. And then that's when I was like 10, 11 years old. And then for my 11th birthday, they gave me that drum set, and that's still the drum set I have to this day. It's at my parents' house. And yeah, then, you know, by the time I was 15, I was making beats, and my uncle gave me his turntables, and then that sent it to the moon, DJing. Like, that kicked it. Just, that's when things really started for me heavy, when I started making albums, and, you know, all that shit was 15 years old. And so I'm turning, you know, now I'm turning 18, and I have my little group of friends. We all make music, and, you know, I'm coming to the point where I gotta find what I'm gonna do with my life. You know, I gotta get a job. I got a car now, so I gotta pay for gas for that. And, you know, I'm working these mainly, you know, dead-end jobs from 18 to 21, essentially, 21, 22. Once I was 22, that's when I got the job I'm at now. And, you know, it's been the best thing I've had. You know, it's the most money, and, like, I can afford to live on my own now. But just from 18 to 22 is really rough because, you know, I'm working dead-end jobs, I'm partying, hanging out with people, and doing the music shit, DJing. I'm DJing at raves, you know, I'm performing shows, I'm doing all this shit. And in the back of my mind, I'm just like, you know, I'm trying as hard as I can to figure out a way to make music my career. And it's so tough. And especially, one of the big things that I feel like I'm learning as I get older and I get more mature is that, like, things aren't so scary, and they aren't so, like, daunting anymore. Like finding a career and doing adult shit, it's not scary anymore like it was when I was 18 to 22. And it, like, you know, and that was a big thing for me with, like, coming to terms with the fact that I can't do this as a career, you know, because I was 18 to 22, I was just in denial about it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna keep doing these shows and, you know, do these dead-end jobs and just, like, hope that, you know, something works, someone finds me, you know, something happens, because I don't know what I'm doing, you know. Like, I just had no idea what I was doing. And, you know, I think the biggest part for me, and this is more my advice for people, like, if you don't want to give up, is that if you're down to sign to a major label, do it. Like, if you are okay with the, you know, the consequences and the compromises you're going to have to make doing that, go right ahead. Don't give up. But I think for me, I have seen, you know, I haven't known anybody personally who's been signed to a major or signed to any label, but I know that when you do, there's certain things you might have to change your sound. You're going to have to release music when they want you to. You're going to have to do press when they want you to. You're going to might even have to change your whole look, you know, and I just couldn't do that. Like, to me, music is the most important part. And so why would I change my shit for anybody? You know, I wouldn't change that shit for my friends. Why would I change that for some dude in a suit who works at fucking Atlantic Records, you know? So, like, just the more I've come to think about it, the more I'm just like, it's not for me. Like, I'll never quit making music. I'm going to be doing this shit till I'm dead. But I can't do it as a career. And it's, to me, I think what I've come to realize is that for years, admitting that was the same as admitting giving up making music. But I've come to realize that, like, I can still do music and not, like, and do some other career. You know, I don't have to, like, make this shit my job, you know. And one of the big lessons my dad taught me was that, you know, he said you don't want to make your passion your career, which I think makes a lot of sense. Like, his passion is cars, and when he was, you know, my age, he realized he can't do that as a career because then it won't be any fun. And so I used to tell myself, like, yeah, he's full of shit. Like, music is different. Like, music is different than cars, but it's the same shit. It's my passion, and it's good, you know, and I'm good at it, but, like, maybe I'm just not good enough to make it my career. Who knows? Like, I feel like if I really wanted to, I could drop everything, move back in with my parents, go to fucking Berklee's music school or whatever, and then, you know, make some connections, like sign a deal, make whatever bullshit music they want me to make a bunch of TikToks and shit, and then boom, like, I'm famous. But I don't want that shit, you know? Like, and I don't want to sound like I'm better than anybody else, because if you want to go that route, that's totally cool. And I don't think that makes you any less talented, because you're either talented or you're not, you know? And I think, you know, there's still a lot of great music on the radio, there's still a lot of great popular music, but I don't know, I don't think I have it in me. And another big thing I've come to realize is that my personality is not built for music. I'm not a very sociable person. I have a hard time making friends, honestly, you know, like, and I don't know, I'm not fit for the whole hobnobbing and making connections and shit. And it sucks to admit, but it's just true. Like, I'm not very sociable, and I'm not, you know, I'm very introverted, and I don't, like, you know, I just don't make connections like that too easily. And, you know, I think that's fine, but it's just that's a big aspect that I notice people who do well in the music industry, they have, is that they're very sociable people. They connect well with other people, and they, you know, they do all that kind of shit. And I don't know, it's just not for me. So I think in whole, my advice to you is that if you're in a similar situation, and if you've tried everything you could up until your mid-20s to make it in the music industry, you should probably give up, honestly. Like, if you haven't, I mean, people make it all the time in their 30s, even 40s maybe, but I think by the time you're 25 and you've really tried every single thing you can, and you haven't even made a dent, like, if you're making progress, like really good progress, and you're, you know, 25, 26, I would say keep going. But if you're in the position I'm in, where, you know, I have like 100 monthly listeners on Spotify, I've made $200 in the past 8 years I've had music on streaming, you know, I don't have social media, so I don't even have a following. Like, you should just pack it in, you know. And I think the biggest reason why I've found it so easy now to admit that I'm done is because I found my career. Like, I'm going to be pursuing IT. I've got my first certificate. I'm working towards the A+, you know, and I think I've finally, like, that's filled the hole that pursuing a music career had for me, you know. Like, now I've been telling myself I was going to do this shit, like, for the past 5 years. I've been saying that, oh, I'm going to do this. And then, you know, I've just been trying to do the music thing. And then, because I just wasn't ready to admit that it's not for me. And now that I've been making steps in that process, and I've been doing good, like, it's finally so much easier to be like, okay, well, you know, I don't have to, like, try and do the music thing anymore, you know. And I don't think it makes making music or doing music any less fun, you know. It's still my thing that I love to do, and it's my passion, my record collection, my DJing, my equipment that I have, and collecting equipment, and making music. And I still even love making music with people. Like, me and my girlfriend make music. I have a friend that I make music with every now and then. Check out our music video, Learn to Cope, on my YouTube page. It's tough, but I'm always going to do music. My love for music hasn't died. I just think the part of me that's going to do it for money has died. Because I've also considered, trying to do like the whole Twitch streaming thing, like, but then I'm like, dude, I don't have the time or the patience for this shit. Like, trying to DJ on a stream for hours. Like, when I was hanging out with some DJ friends when I was, in the rave scene, like, we were doing that every Friday where we would do, take turns DJing on a live stream. It was really fun. I loved it. But like, I don't know. It's just not fit for me. And I think it's been super tough to admit it. But yeah, I think I'm finally there, and it sucks, but just, it's part of getting older. I feel like, like giving up dreams and doing what's, right in front of me that is much more practical. It sucks, and I never thought I'd get here, but it's still, it sucks, but it's really, it kind of, to me, feels like coping with the death. Like, I'm finally I'm past the grieving stage where I can accept that this has happened, and now I can move on with my life. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there for everybody. If you're going through the same thing I am, you're not alone, and there's nothing wrong with admitting that pursuing a music career isn't for you. That's not to say that music isn't for you, but it's to say that making money and having a career in performing music or making music, if it's not for you, that's totally all right. Like, it's just, music is for me, but pursuing it as a career just isn't for me. And just don't feel alone if you're in that situation, because there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean you're not made for music. It just means that you might not have the right skills or the right personality, or it could just be luck. Like, yeah. So that's just what I have to say. Just putting that out there for everybody, and hope this video kind of helped some of you guys out there if you're in the same situation to kind of feel more comfortable accepting that, and maybe just looking within yourself and figuring out what you're trying to do with the rest of your life. It sucks, but like, being young it feels so hopeless, and it's scary. Like, nothing your parents or adults can tell you. It really feels like none of that can really like get you ready for that feeling of like, I don't know where I'm gonna be when I'm 30. But I feel like as I get closer to 30, I finally feel like I kind of know where I'm going to be. And as long as I keep setting my goals and achieving them and moving towards a certain goal, then like, I'm all right, So like, this shit really plays a lot into your personal life. So just kind of think of, since music is so personal to us, like, look at them as kind of the, two sides of the same coin, like, I don't know, I'm kind of rambling. So I'm just going to shut it off, but thanks for watching, and keep making music.